One time for the one time. It's the family bloodline.
What's good people? We are back for another episode of the Family Bloodline Podcast. Yeah. We are here on this eventful Wednesday night. And I'll get yours out the way real quick, dudes. How's your day? How's your week been so far?
Hey, my day's been pretty good. Nothing to complain about this time, man. My show, Jack Reacher, season 3 just dropped.
Yes.
I gotta watch it at the tempo, right? I can't go too fast because then it's done. Right. So yeah.
Right. I'll binge it also. That's my jam. That's my jam for sure. I'm gonna move your boxes, Rich. I'm pulling you up over to the hot spot because you've had an eventful day for sure. You've had an eventful day. How has your day?
Well, first, before
I told you.
Listen, before I get started, I have to agree with Deuce and you. I watched Jack Reacher.
Okay.
I think I watched the first four. The first four, and then the fifth episode. Is he on the fifth now? I think I watched that.
I have to check. I can't remember. I just binge them.
You got to tell me what happened in it.
They came out the warehouse, and he survived that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, there was several different warehouses. Is it the warehouse where they were having a shootout?
One where he had to act like he was with the bad people.
Gotcha.
He made out of that.
Okay.
So I guess the next episode will be next Monday or Tuesday or Sunday. I don't know.
Yeah. I can't stand when they do that to me.
Yeah,
I hate it.
Make you wait, man. It's
they're
terrible.
gonna lose me. They're gonna lose me doing that.
So I'll be real brief. Today was March 12th.
Yes.
And the union that I was elected president was having a protest rally they were against the return to work executive order by Gavin Newsom.
Oh,
July 1st.
Whoa.
And
wait, really? How does
4 days a week?
What does that affect?
So he wants all the state employees of Local 1000, and I think also the other public sector unions that represent state employees to come back to work July 1st of this year, 4 days a week. So Local 1000 is acting like they're against this. They're alleged new leadership, people who've been suspended of their official duties by me. And then they're also trying to fight for a, quote, 1% extra on top of the 3% pay increase for this July 1st. But they're selling it that they're fighting for a 4% pay increase, but they're only fighting for a 1% extra because in their invalid contract that they did when they removed me from office, 3 for a total of 9% over 3 years. And in the fourth year, they were asking for 1% extra that only the state of California would decide if they're going to give it to them or not. So they're lying. And so how does that relate to the podcast tonight?
Oh, I think I can draw a direct correlation, but
it's politics. They're trying to sell you on the fact that they're saying they're fighting the good fight, but they're liars in all they say and do. And they're following their boss, who they refer as their boss, when actually Governor Gavin Newsom is just a partner in this relationship. I'm the other partner representing them. Mm-hmm. And so what they're doing is they're following his leadership because they consider themselves slaves entertaining in unity, SEIU. And so they're following his leadership of offering a sanctuary city for transgendered lives. How's that?
Oh,
Say
wow.
what?
He's offering and they're accepting a sanctuary city for his transgendered lies.
Oh, okay. So that's their quid pro quo.
Because now he did a podcast a few days ago. I don't know the exact date. He said trans girls shouldn't be playing in female sports. But you wasn't saying all that, Gavin Newsom, when Kamala Harris was running for the White House. You wasn't saying that. But when she lost the electoral college, lost the popular vote, lost in all the swing states, now you want to move back to the center and act like you're a man of the people, but the truth of God is not in you.
But so the interesting thing is he's termed out, right?
Yes.
And so what is he setting the next incumbent up for by doing his quid pro quo, right? Is that setting the next person up for success or failure? And if so, why? For failure. Why is he setting them up for failure?
No, what he's trying to do is move the Democratic Party to the center on an issue that they should have never been involved in, the transgendered issue. That was a loser for them, along with the border. That was a loser, period. Now, if you cut Medicaid, Medicare, or you try to reduce Social Security, that's a loser for the Republican Party.
Yeah.
Period. So you pick and choose. So whoever runs and becomes the governor of California, maybe it's a Democrat.
Right.
But what Newsom is doing is getting himself ready for the White House run. So he moves more to the center to appear that he's reasonable. Here's the other thing. All that federal money that comes from the federal government under the authority and the permission of Donald Trump, President Trump. If them folks ain't back to work, they, working from home like they're wealthy, job creators. You don't work from home. If they don't come back to work in July, you ain't getting that federal money.
Well, so we're gonna continue in a second, but before we do, let me make sure I read our disclaimer. This is a pop-up topic, so I just want to read the disclaimer as always. The views expressed are those held by the author and do not represent any other organization, company, corporation, or entity. All right. Disclaimer done. Had to get the politics out the way. So the question that I have, because I don't know, I do know. I'm not going to try to ride the fence like that. Why do people need to go back to the office to work if they were still productive from home?
And I said that today when I was downtown at 1808 16th Street. The fourth largest economy on earth. Some say the fifth, I say the fourth. Okay, we'll come in between 4.5.
Sure.
Yeah.
That economy during COVID never lost a step.
Right.
So whether you work folks from home, whether you work them in the office, whether you work them in the ghetto, the barrio, the county, the city, the suburbs, in the trees, in the ground, in the water, in the air, nothing was declined. So they don't need to come back to work. But there are certain types of people, certain types of bosses, if you're not in that office where they can look at you like they feel they're over you, in control of you, they're not satisfied. Donald Trump is one.
Yeah.
President Trump. Elon Musk is another.
Yeah.
So that's about power. Who has the power?
That was a weird flex to me. Not trying to, but signing an executive order to make everybody go back to work in the office because people were working, and then doubling and tripling down as if people weren't actually working from home. Now, do you have the one-offs or the two-offs that don't produce? Absolutely.
You're going to have that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's attrition. That's going to happen. That you can't stop that. Even if they're in the office, they'll find a way to get an extra 10-minute break for coffee or get a smoke break. If that's the person's nature, that's going to be their nature. But by and large, and I haven't done any research on this just yet to the extent that I want to, but I think by and large, America was just as productive, if not more productive, with people working from the house. Not just that, but you were able to actually have families come back together and see each other and be together. And you had businesses, larger corporations, who saw their overheads decrease because you didn't have the lights on all the time. You didn't have the water running all the time. You didn't have toilets flushing, right? You didn't have all these different things that brick and mortars would actually face, and they would have to pay out for. So bottom lines should have increased just by sheer logic of the whole thing. And again, I got to go back and do more research on it, right? To get down into
no, you don't. In fact, let's take it a step further. My name is Richard Lewis Brown. I'm duly elected president of Local 1000, largest public sector union in the state of California. And everything I say tonight reflects that. Anything I've said in my prior videos reflects just me as an ordinary person. But tonight, I am the president of Local 1000. You say, Governor Gavin Newsom, you believe in the environment. You believe in the green environment. But yet you're making all those cars get back on the road to pollute the most populated state in America. You are absolute lie. You wanted to make everyone buy electric. And President Trump said, oh, no, we're not going to mandate people to buy electric cars in the state of California. You are a liar in all that you say. You're a liar in all that you do, Governor Gavin Newsom. And I'm the president of Local 1000. If you don't like my mouth, if Local 1000 doesn't like my mouth, take me back to court. I'm already in court fighting your corruption. Let's go back again.
And that's a very valid point. Now I can absolutely understand how the economy was slowed down because you didn't have as many people. A certain segment of the economy slowed down because you didn't have as many people who had to go out to lunch or to drive. So you had gas that was kind of the regulation of gas was down. However, the profits for the oil companies, although it took a little bit of a hit, it was still a multi-billion-dollar organization at the end. So they still hit profit margins, just not where they wanted to during COVID. So, but again, if America has this underlying foundational belief that the nuclear family has to be back together, one of the biggest ways to do that is by allowing people to work from home, to spend time with their kids, to spend time with their spouses. There's a dual hypocrisy that I want to fight against, but it's hard for me to, and that is the notion of being married is the best option for people, right? However, in America, I'm talking only American standard, our divorce rate is upwards toward 50 and 55%. And it increases if you boil that down to the Christian religion in and of itself, right? Minus certain denominations like Mormons don't get divorced at high rates at all, right? Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't get divorced at high rates either. Depending on where you are in the country, Seventh-day Adventists don't get divorced. Catholics don't get divorced as high. But within the Christian religion as a whole, they make up a huge portion of the divorces. So if America wants to do what it was talking about, like I hear people saying often, America's got to get back to God. And I have a question about that, which is, when was America with God, looking at its history? However, I'll put a pause on that. But if America wants to get back to God and get back to families, why is there such a fight against allowing the parents to work from home to save marriages?
From the Democratic Party's perspective, Gavin Newsom is saying, hey, he's all for the nuclear family, but he's going to still have you come back to work. Here's what I would say in regards to the Republican Party. Yeah, you've been caught in your hypocrisy, period. But I don't support the Democrats or the Republicans. I support all the represented employees of Local 1000, regardless of what political party, regardless of their political affiliation, whether they're gay or straight, maybe they're transgender, except when it comes to playing and female sports.
Sure.
So, when they saw me today and they said, oh, you've seen this, you've seen that, it's really the American way of protesting peacefully. So when you look what we're going to talk about tonight at that bill that you sent me, and I see 62% of it goes to the military, then that tells you where our minds are at. As long as we have a strong military, we'll dictate the pace to anybody and everybody. As long as we have our nuclear weapons, we'll tell you you shouldn't have your nuclear weapons.
There was an increase in missiles. I saw that.
So from what I saw, so when I was down there in that rain today, asking for righteousness to come down and let God restore me to fulfill my divine destiny, I'm calling out the hypocrisy of not just my union, but of the person that they follow, the person that wants to offer sanctuary to people who intentionally come to this country illegally. They're not seeking political asylum. So Gavin Newsom, these games that you're playing, that you're getting away with, you better pray to God that when God puts me back in, you can figure out a way on how to talk to me, because I'm going to keep coming at you and coming at you and coming at you. If you think the Republican Party is giving you a hard time, if you think they're giving you holy hell, no, I'm going to show you holy hell.
All right. Well, it made sense because, again, I was watching you live, and I was listening to you, and I was listening to your voice go hoarse and all that other good stuff, and I was like, hey, he out in these streets today.
Yeah, my voice is gone.
He out here for real, getting it in. That was like goodness. Deuce, I didn't mean to cut you off at all. If you had,
no, you good. No, that was a whole lesson right there, man. That was a whole lesson.
And they were across the street. I stayed peaceful. I stayed on my side of the street because I knew that was what they wanted to do. Even though, so I'm yelling across the street in traffic, and they're making their noises, but I'm trying to talk into a phone. I don't have my boom mic.
Yeah.
I don't have my lighting perfectly because it was supposed to rain really hard.
Mm-hmm.
So I had, I brought my tripod. I had two people actually. One tripod watching me. If I get hit, if the tripod gets snatched or stolen, somebody else on the other tripod is watching them.
That's crazy. That
Then I had somebody else on the megaphone.
Yeah.
He did a great job.
Yes, he did.
Richard Lewis Brown is the president. Now, in the news media, if you go to the SACB news media, who helped run me out of office, I bet they don't cover what I said. I guarantee you they're not going to cover it.
Well,
now, maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong.
What I was wondering is what the opposition was saying, because I couldn't, of course I couldn't hear him because you stayed on your side, which was a good thing. But I was trying to understand what they were saying.
Because if I had walked over there, they wouldn't have hit me.
But you would have been the aggressor. That's what would have been painted.
Right. So then they would have called the police. Now, listen, if I had more people with me, all those cars driving up and down, driving that one way past me.
Yeah.
I'm born in '69, daddy's that. That's me. So overnight, I'm born in '69 in June as well. So when you really want to do something, you stop that traffic.
Yeah.
Now the police has to come and say, you have to remove yourself from the traffic.
Right.
Well, okay, so I remove myself from the traffic. But the key is now you got to publicize it. That's the catcher. So when people block traffic and they block the highways, and people say, hey, you disrupted my work day. I couldn't get to work on time because of your stupid ass protests. Well, stupid ass protests or not, the Black Lives Matter movement is a protest you will never forget, ever. So even the few people who looted and hurt the image of the Black Lives Matter protest, they got their message across in this country.
Yeah.
And so that's what I was trying to do, but I was doing it more quieter. So they were yelling and screaming. We don't know what they were saying. And I was saying, hey, you put the man in office. You voted for this man at 2 different times.
Yeah.
You stopped the recall. You gave him $1 million before I took office, so you could help him beat his recall. These people think that I'm a loser, that I've lost it, that I'm crazy, that I can't be restored by the court system. For some crazy reason, these so-called Democrats, have you looked at the White House lately? You wish I put this man in jail. You took a shot at this man. You was running him through the court system. You said he's a 34-time felon. But this particular president, this particular European American said, I don't care what you say. You stole the election from me in 2020. I didn't rape that woman, E. Jean Carroll, or sexually harass her or whatever. I didn't do anything wrong. I know my whiteness. I know who I am. And I'm going to run for White House again. And on the third time, I'm going to be elected again. That's what he said. And so those people across the street today, obviously, they're not paying attention. Because this particular president said, here I am, I'm back.
Yeah.
Holy
He's
cow.
back, all right.
I know y'all don't want to hear that, but
He's back.
Commander in Chief.
Yeah. And I think that's that is a great segue.
Wait a minute.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Polar Nights. I want to address you real quickly on that Black Lives Matter. Are so honorable they bought a huge mansion. Polar Nights, you're correct, my friend. They hurt. I don't want to say they destroyed their movement, but when they took that money and bought that mansion in LA, I don't care what the reason. That really caused a great deal of discredit to their movement. Maybe more than those few African American or whatever individuals who were looting and robbing stores during the height of the Black Matters movement. Polar Nights, you are correct. I'm sorry, I'm done.
No, you're good. You're good. But that is even with that being said, that's still a great transitional point to bring up the first topic. Again, what we were just talking about was a spur of the moment thing. It was a real life matter that happened earlier today, where Richard Lewis Brown, the duly elected president of Local 1000, was out in the streets today, giving them hell, and it was good to see, quite honestly. Because regardless of whether or not I agree with American citizens, what I do agree with is watching the democratic process in action, whether it be about peaceful protest, whether it be about passionate senator discussions, congressional discussions, so on. As Jasmine Crockett, that's why I like watching Jasmine Crockett so much. That's our democratic process at work, and I love it. Mm-hmm. Again, it doesn't matter if I agree or disagree. I don't agree with a lot of the things that are coming out of Elon Musk, but he has the right to say it. He has the express right to say it. Now, what the Democrats are saying, however, talking about this shutdown, woo,
they're liars.
Woo.
Nope, it's not in them.
You don't think so?
Nope.
Okay, let's go into that. Tell me why. Tell me why you don't think so.
The Democrats don't have backbone.
Okay.
Let me tell you why. If the Democrats had backbone, if they were serious about loving democracy, if they were serious about allowing illegal immigration to come into the country on that January 6th in 2021, they would have had former president at that time, Donald Trump, in the courtroom for trial by no later than November of that year. If they were that serious about this country, but they're not. They're cowards. See, when the Republicans tell you they believe in state rights, they're not just saying that. Mm-hmm. They're serious. The Democrats are not serious about shutting the government down. When the Republicans tell you, we want you working, and you're not going to sit at home, and you're not going to be 3 or 4 sexes, when they tell you that, they're serious. How do I know? From 1861 to 1865, before they became the Republicans of today, the Confederacy, the South, them Dixie Democrats were letting you know, we believe in state rights. We believe in a free market. We don't need the U.S. government to tell us anything.
I'm so happy you clarified that it was the Dixiecrats. Okay. Yeah. I'm glad you said it, because there's a lot of somewhat informed people that will say, oh, it was the Democratic Party, but they don't understand that the difference between the Dixiecrats, Democratic Party, and the eventual Republican Party that came out of a lot of different movements, just like they don't. Anyway, thank you for saying that. That's a very, very huge distinction to make.
So my summary is, if you think these Democrats in the state Senate have the courage of their convictions to shut the country down, I'll put $100 up right now, and you can send it to your favorite charity.
Well, I'm not a betting man, and I can't put anything up because I might not get paid because I'm a government employee.
I'm not.
That's a joke. I'm joking.
I'm not giving you the money.
Yeah,
I'm giving you some money to give to a charity to
right.
help America become great again.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go. I'm with it.
Become great again.
Again. Okay. All right. No, I'm not.
Oh
no,
man,
I'm not a fan. I'm not a federati. I'm not. Dudes, what do you think about the shutdown? A go or no go?
I think they're gonna cave, man. I'm with
Wow.
Rich. The Democrats haven't shown the backbone to do it. And all right, let's look at it. Let's look at the numbers. They need 8 votes. If the Republicans hold true, and Donald Trump sent out, I don't know if he sent it through Truth Social, how he sent it. He told them, remain united, no dissent, fight for another day when the timing is right. Fight amongst themselves for another day when the timing is right. So far, the House did it. Yeah, a Republican and a Democrat flip-flop.
Which is crap.
Didn't really mean anything.
That Democrat that flip, they should be on that they should be on that dude's head or her head. I had it somewhere who it was. I know the Kentucky.
I'll look it up.
It was Jared Golden.
Jared Golden.
Where's he out of?
Kentucky.
No.
Maine.
And that guy flipped.
You double check me on that, but I know it's Jared Golden. I didn't write down where.
And he flipped. And the Democrats are allowing this to happen without saying anything to him in their party. He flipped. They needed every last one of the Democrats to remain against. They knew that Tom from Kentucky was not going. He had been stressing that he wasn't going to sign.
Here's the thing. It's still past 2017, 2013. So even if we take Tom and Jared,
you're correct.
20.
You're correct.
15. It's 20.
Yeah.
Come on, Siri trying to.
No, you're correct, Deuce.
Stop.
It was Jared Golden, a Democrat of Maine. You are correct.
Yeah.
But and I don't disagree with you because they still had the numbers in the House to do whatever they wanted, right? They didn't need the Democrats to do anything. But at this point, it becomes about principle. It becomes about principle. And this is what I respect and disrespect and hate about the Republican Party. Just like the president told them to come out and do something, regardless of it being right or wrong, to stand on it and to stick with each other, they're going to do it. The Democrats are such a splintered, fractured organization.
Yeah,
they can't count on each other to be intentionally moving together as a unit at all. They've got no strategy. No strategy. Weakness. And I'm not saying overt weakness. I'm simply saying that they don't have a hold of their organization. But anyway, go ahead, Deuce.
Well, all right. So when you look at that, right, with the Senate, they need 8 votes from the Democratic Party, right? I think they can get that. I think they can because you got a Democratic senator in Georgia. Georgia's typically Republican, right? It's typically red.
Yeah.
He has to look for doing what's aligning with the party or keeping his job. You got let's see, Mark Warner, Virginia. Yeah. Virginia's a battleground state. It's what happens when you mix blue and red together? Whatever that color is,
purple.
That's Virginia.
Purple.
Vote with the party allegiance on my job, right? And there's a few others like that. You have the one out in New Mexico, right? New Mexico, I think they typically go red, right? Got to keep your job. And then, of course, Agnes King of Maine.
Yeah.
So one of his representatives switched sides. Wonder why. Wonder what's going on in Maine. I haven't looked at the history of Maine, how they vote. I'm assuming they're more blue than red. I don't know. They could be more red than blue. I'm not sure.
No, they're generally blue.
They're generally blue. But they're saying that his last victory was tight. Party, a job. So that's going to be a scary thing. So I think they could get. They might be able to get 8, man. I don't know
So,
if the Democrats, to your
Deuce.
point, who's the leader? Let me ask you this: who's the leader of the Democratic Party?
Schumer. He's the
Schumer.
Senate minority.
And we all see him talk. He's not inspiring, man. He's not inspiring at all.
But wait,
so
hold on.
Who is going to guide them, hold them to the line to vote alongside the party's agenda? Go ahead.
So I have a question. You keep saying there's 53 Republicans in the Senate. So I imagine there's 47 Democrats. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah.
So why do you keep saying they have to pick up 8 votes?
You need it's either 7 or 8. They need 60
to pass this continuing resolution to September 30th. It's not a full spending bill. It's just a continuing resolution. You're saying to pass in the Senate, you need 60 versus just a majority in the House? Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So they got to steal some from the Democratic side. That's why they have the narrative set.
From the Republican
if the government
side.
shuts down, it's going to, sorry. That's why they have the narrative set that if the government fails, it's on the Democrats.
All right. So what I got here, I'm trying to go real quick. I got 47 Democrats in the Senate, but that includes 2 independents who caucus with the Democrats.
Oh.
I think one is Bernie Sanders. I can't remember who the other one is.
I don't see Bernie, even though he has a bone to pick with the party, I don't see him flipping.
No.
He won't.
Even though he has a legitimate right with them.
Yeah.
So in the House, they only needed a majority, but in the Senate, you're saying they need 60?
They need 60.
But in the House, they only needed a majority.
Right.
To pass.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm just, so everyone who's listening.
So I don't know. I think that, again, this could all be performative because right now we are watching one hell of a apprentice show, unfortunately, but or episode as it were. But the Democrats are also out for the rest of the week.
Yeah.
So that could cause an issue as well, right?
Because they're not going to come to the vote.
They won't be at the vote. They won't.
And you're saying they won't. That means they won't have a quorum, or
they won't have the votes to pass. The bill won't have the votes to pass, even with everything being said. If they had the proper amount of Democrats to flip over, right, or independents, they still won't be present to actually do it. And this is for 14. It's for Friday, right? The government shuts down after Friday, so they won't be available for the vote. Is what I was looking at in an article.
Well, this has happened before, and they pretty much held them in the Senate for a while. But going back to the 60, they need 60 in order to beat a filibuster or to prevent a filibuster.
So you still need a majority to pass, but if someone tried to filibuster it, you would need 60 to overcome the filibuster.
Right. You
push
need
it forward.
3/5. Yeah.
So if the Republicans stay strong, 53 Republicans, they stay strong in the Senate. The only way the Democrats at 47 could beat the 53 is one of those Democrats would have to filibuster.
Exactly.
But that just James just said that other Democrats are leaving. You said they're going home.
So according to an article that I have up on govx.com, it says some Democrats have said they want to use so I heard the argument about what the Republicans were saying and hoping that things happen, but this is saying that Democrats said they want to use the shutdown fight to push back against cuts across government spearheaded by Elon Musk and the Doge. They also argue that the House passed CR cuts funding for non-defense programs and services by $13 billion from fiscal 24 levels. The House is in recess for the remainder of the week for the House Democrats retreat, complicating any effort to avert a shutdown besides the Senate passing the House bill. Right. So
Wait, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Can you see that part again? The House is going away, not the Senate, but the House is going away.
The House is in recess for the remainder of the week for the House Democrats' retreat, complicating any effort to avert a shutdown besides the Senate passing the House bill.
Or
because
the Senate could try to pass the alternative, right?
So right, that's another measure. That's another measure. But remember that the push was to have one beautiful bill.
That's not. That's not.
All right. So okay. So the options, just to recap: pass the bill as is, vote on the Plan B bill, right? Or if both are rejected, it has to go back to the House.
It has to, yes.
The Democrats won't be there because they'll be on a retreat, which I guess is their way. But this is what pisses me off, man.
That's their strategy.
They can't even have backbone properly. They can't even rebel properly, man. They can't even say we're not going to vote on this. Period. Oh, we're going to be in a little retreats. We won't be available right now. That's we want to vote, but we're going to be in a retreat. It sounds so democratic.
Yeah,
it sounds so democratic, so weak. It's the weakest revolt I've ever heard in my life.
And so to you all, go ahead, Rich.
I just read on the USA. I'm trying to read this really quick. Rand Paul, Republican senator.
Yep,
he says he's a no.
He's a no.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's a no.
He's a no. I'm trying to think if there was a couple of other senators that are a no as well. And the reason why they're Republican. And the reason why that they were a no is because they couldn't get guarantees for the big beautiful bill portion of it that it wouldn't hurt Medicaid. And that it touches their constituents too much. It touches a larger portion of their base. And so they couldn't really do anything. Like, remember, we've been watching representatives. I've seen 4 or 5 representatives, Republican representatives, trying to hold town halls and getting worn out by their constituents.
Yes.
Getting worn out to the point where the Republican leadership said, "Stop holding town halls. Stop holding town halls. Do that." So there are some senators who don't have the same skin in the game as the House Republicans, and so their purview is different. They have to look at things a little bit differently. Like Deuce was saying, we're talking about job stability, right? Even in the states of Georgia, the constituents are becoming a bit more upset. If you look at Nebraska, right, the thing that's being going and saying is Nebraska's going to be bankrupt in 6 months.
Yeah. And
so their constituency, who by and large voted red, they don't want anything else that's going to hurt where they are right now. And so these senators know this and they understand it. Although the House Republicans have to deal with it directly, everybody's on the chopping block to end up getting voted out because of this. So if the Democrats would strategically do this, it could be a win for them. It could be a win, but like y'all said, and this is the point that I wanted to agree with, they got no backbone. Instead of saying, "No, we ain't showing up for the vote. We ain't finna beat her. We don't care what happens in the Senate. We ain't going to beat her. Shut it down." The Republicans have directly said on multiple occasions, especially when former President Obama was in office, shut it down.
So wait a minute. Hold on, we're confusing these two. Wait a minute. The House goes away for a week, the Democrats, so they're nowhere around to be found. This CR that takes us to September 30th, the Republicans have 52 votes right now. So they could vote on this and pass it. If the Democrats in the Senate are not there to filibuster it, then it passes. So we know the Democrats will be in the Senate. Somebody will be there to filibuster this. Can we agree on that?
I can agree with you on that.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah.
What you say?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, because we don't know if all the Democrats bought their like retreat tickets to the little.
No. Those are the Democrats in the House.
The House. Those are the House Democrats.
Oh, it's just the lower chamber.
If it gets pushed back.
Okay.
Lower chamber.
It gets pushed back.
Okay, the senators don't have tickets to that party. Okay, I got you.
No, because they got to be there to filibuster.
They do.
So the Democrats in the Senate, they want a new bill, alternative bill through April 11th. They say Senate Democrats are unified, all 47, on a funding extension through April 11th.
which I
that
don't
will allow
understand.
Congress time to negotiate a bipartisan bill, and they won't negotiate anything. They just keep kicking the bucket down the road.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see here.
So what do you all say? Understanding some of the measures in the budget, should it be passed?
Wait a minute. At least 8 Senate Democrats would need to join Republicans to clear a 60-vote threshold
Yeah.
and advance the bill to the floor. Oh, so that 60 vote will, like you said, beat the filibuster.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But if they can't beat the filibuster, which right now it doesn't stand that they can, right? It's going to pause, as you were in my military jargon. It's going to shut the government down. And the Democrats see it as a win. They see it as a win because they do actually want to put these measures on the backs of the Republicans, especially when it begins to dig down into their constituents. And as I was looking through, and I didn't get to read it like I usually do. I got my people here with me for the next 2 weeks. But looking at just going through it kind of quickly, I was looking at the drastic cuts, and I was just like, that's rough. That's going to hurt. That's going to hurt bad. And when I read it and I started tying two things together, reading the cuts that they want to take out, and then them trying to line the tariffs up to make it sound like things are going to be good with the tariffs. I understand why they're trying to promote the tariffs as if they're a good thing to have right now, even though the tariffs aren't going to be a good thing, especially with these budget cuts.
So I'm glad you didn't take that bet.
It's about to be a rough ride.
So wait a minute. You keep saying, James, Richard, you're trying to cut Medicaid.
Yeah.
The Republicans on TV say, show us where we say in this continuing resolution where we're trying to cut Medicaid. But the Democrats and all their people are convinced that Medicaid is on the chopping block.
Mm-hmm.
The Republicans in the Senate was it the Senate Republicans or the House Republicans who were having their town halls and they were getting attacked?
House.
Who?
It was the House Republicans.
So they're worried, and now they've called their Senate Republicans from that state and say, hey, look, don't do no town halls. Because these people who voted for us are worried about getting cuts to Medicaid. I keep hearing Medicaid, but I don't hear Medicare. Yeah. What about Social Security? Is that still on the chopping block?
So the Social Security thing, I think, is going to be it's about to become a thing in upcoming weeks. The reason why I say that is because Elon Musk recently said on Joe Rogan that Social Security is a Ponzi scheme, essentially. And he was doing his BS Elon talking points so Social Security. I was thinking to myself, why don't this dude shut the fuck up? First off, he's not a genius. But he wants to pull Social Security and figure out how to privatize those funds instead of allowing the American citizens who've paid into it to reap those, and they are entitlements. They're entitled to that money because that's what they've paid. That's what they've paid.
Here's something I find interesting, man. Because it's almost like an elaborate smoke and mirror game, man. It's like it's a beautiful smoke and mirror game. The whole tariffs thing. Yeah. I think the tariffs on Canada and Mexico have been issued, but then we kick them down the road. Then he says we're going to double them, and then oh no, we'll negotiate. So everyone's caught up in this. The stock market's been up and down, down and up. You know what I'm saying? Stock market's been going crazy.
Yeah,
right? That's what our focus has been on. And then I know we'll talk about it later on the show. Adding tariffs to the EU, man. So everyone's up in arms about this. So right now you got the new Canadian Prime Minister, the Mexican President, all going at it, and then the Zelensky show. Okay, so we got all that going on, right? While Doge is still going through doing what they're doing, our eyes are focused on that. When they came in Elon said he wants to save the American people, but the goal was to cut between $1 to $2 trillion by next June or July.
Yeah.
Right. 26. Okay. So I just played around with some numbers, man. So we're saving money. We're reducing corporate income tax, right? We're doing that. We did that. We reduced it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And the tax cuts are going to reduce what the top brackets pay in taxes.
400,000 plus, 400K.
Okay.
Yeah.
If and this is Chat GPT giving the numbers a little off, but let me go down here. If we're talking about saving the American government money, reducing the debt, also another thing, in Trump's first full month, the U.S. deficit went up by 4%.
Yep.
But all right, forget that part, right? Going back, if you target just the top two income brackets and add 1% tax in it, 1%, you could generate almost $150 billion. This is over the course of 10 years,
Sure.
not by a year. All right. And if you go back to a 35% income tax rate for the companies, that's $1 trillion over 10 years. I asked Chat, I said, Chat, what taxes do you need to do that for 1 year? Just focusing on the top 2%, you have to increase their taxes by 10%.
So a California rate.
For the top brackets, across the board. Now, here's the question. We're not in their pockets, but could they afford a 10% tax increase? I'm going to say sure, compared to the federal workers losing 100% of their income, compared to shutting down USAID and all those nations depending on their aid. In comparison to, right? It's just a weird way. So now all these terrorists and stuff, all this other talks distract us from what's going on. Distract us from the magician's hand. Because a way to fix it would have been adjusting tax another way instead of the way that they're doing it. But no one's talking about tax cuts anymore. We're talking about terrorists.
So listen to this.
Okay, I see a smoke and mirror point.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to this. If the wealthy had a choice, well, I won't even say the wealthy, just the rich, pay an increase in taxes or eliminate the Federal Reserve and let the government print its own money, which one do you think they'd take?
Oh,
eliminate taxes or man.
You know,
okay, if I'm a rich guy,
pay a
eliminate
10% increase in taxes or eliminate the Federal Reserve and let the government print the money.
They won't let the government print the money. I'm gonna tell you that now.
No,
I think we can all agree that they would not allow the government to print the money.
So if that's the case, and I agree with that, if that's the case, that tells you, Deuce, what I've been telling you from the very beginning I first met you, how crucial and how too much to your detriment the Federal Reserve System is. Because
let me ask
you have private bankers
yeah.
tell you, you go to the private bankers and say, hey, I need to borrow some money. If I'm the U.S. government, I'm printing my own money. I don't need the Federal Reserve for anything. But when they tell me, okay, we're the experts in this, and we're independent from you, even though we tell the people that we're a federal agency, but we're not.
Yeah.
We tell you, go print up $100 billion. And then you say, okay, great. And you run to the Treasury that you do control, and they print up $100 billion. But then the private group of bankers called the Federal Reserve said, well, hey, you got to pay us $100 billion back. Well, where'd you get your $100 billion from? Was it from your gold reserves? No. Was it from your silver? No.
Here's my question.
Oil? No. So where'd the money come from? We just told you to print it up. Don't you worry about where the money came from.
Here's my question to that.
Huh?
What's the check and balance in that, man? We see how the federal government
there is
runs.
No check and balance. That's what I'm. Well, wait a minute. Hold on. Now Congress can say we're going to eliminate the Federal Reserve and we're going to print our own money, because when you
think that's a better avenue.
Hold on. When the government goes to the Fed said, print up so much for yourself, and then pay us the money back that got printed out of thin air because it's fiat money. You will pay us that money back, that $100 billion back, with an interest. So you better go collect some taxes from somebody. But the money was printed from flat. There was no backing. It wasn't backed by gold or diamonds or oil or anything. It's fiat. So a group of guys tell you, go print up this money that has no value whatsoever, but the perception is it has value. Because if they come to me right now and say, here's 100,000, give it right here. Give it right here. Go America. US won. Because the perception is I can take that money, send you your cut. You'll never hear from me again. I'm gone. In fact, now I'm a shareholder of a corporation called Elon Musk.
Wow. During the Great Depression, if memory serves me right, didn't we have people that were burning money to stay warm?
Because they what?
To stay warm, they would burn money to start a fire.
I don't. Maybe, but I can't. Yeah,
I'll go back and check that out. But money had lost its value in comparison to tangible things, right? And so when I say tangible things, if
wait a
ahead.
minute. Oh, I didn't want to bring this up. Oh,
go ahead.
You brought this up. This is what the internet says on AI overview. If you believe in the internet, if you believe in AI, Polar Knights, I'm just saying. It says during hyperinflation of the Weimar Republic in the 1920s, some Germans burned banknotes for warmth because their face value had fallen below their value as fuel. Now, that was after they lost World War I. Europe put all those sanctions on Germany.
Yeah, that's what. Okay, so it might not have been America. Yes, because I do remember that there were people burning like freaking barrel loads of money, and so when you have people who are willing to burn the exact thing that was supposed to reflect value, it begins to shift as to what value, where they're placing their value. It's more valuable to have heat generated from this currency than what it is to actually have the currency to spend.
During a hyperinflation.
Absolutely. Right. And so it's an extreme thought. But it does get back a bit to the point that Richard is making at the end of the day, as far as perception, value and perception on a fiat currency.
Hold on. So here's the thing. We have these two case studies that exist today in this world, right?
Okay.
So we have the central bank that is independent, right? It's independent of our government to maintain trust in the system, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, and then we have a system that Rich adamantly backs, which is like in crypto, it's like a Bitcoin. Nobody controls Bitcoin, correct? There's no central agency controlling Bitcoin.
Okay, I will agree to that. I was going to go down a conspiracy theory, but I will refrain from the conspiracy theory.
But actually, Bitcoin is actually
the Fed does not print its own money. This is fact. The Fed does not print its own money. The Treasury, the U.S. Treasury prints up the money that the Fed
but the Fed controls,
regulates. Yeah,
there you go.
Okay,
but
correct.
When you said that the Fed was independent of the U.S. government, that's what
not
they
independent,
sell.
but you want full government control, correct?
What I'm saying is, if you want to control your destiny, you print your own money. Any country that has a central bank, and that central bank tells that government how much money to print, that government will always be in debt to that central bank.
Sure.
Now, Clinton, he balanced our budget, but he also let jobs leave America with NAFTA.
Yep.
But he balanced the budget, and he was a Democrat. So the Republicans hated him, but they made money with him.
Yeah. And that's the trend for the last couple of decades, right? Republican presidents get us in debt and Democratic presidents begin to remove us out of those slumps. Those are the trends, unfortunately.
But until this will never get addressed on TV by neither side. As long as you borrow money from a bank, in the Bible, you are the borrower. You're not going to come out on top because the bank's going to charge you interest. And Orthodox Jews and Orthodox Muslims who follow Sharia law tell you, you don't borrow money and pay it back with interest. You don't do that. That's unrighteous.
Let me go back to numbers. All right.
Okay.
So, because we got the spiritual philosophy on it, let me go back to numbers. Bitcoin was a bad example because, to Rich's point, he's advocating for a government not only to print but also control their money. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, if you have the printer, there's an unlimited number of dollars you can print, correct?
No, because wait a minute. Let me clarify.
Okay.
So when our government prints up money, it should be backed by something. Because if it's backed by diamonds or silver, or more preferably gold, now it's a fixed amount. And because it's it's a fixed amount of gold, you can't print more than what you can back by gold. And therefore, and the Republicans would love this, now you're going to be fiscally responsible. And now,
so what you're advocating for is a different control mechanism. So instead of the Fed, you want it attached to something.
No, you print it yourself, but the control measure is you back it by something tangible, so you stay on budget.
Okay,
so
that's your argument.
Well, because if you don't have your money backed by anything, you can print as much as you want. So if you want to have Richard's shirt, I can. Oh my God,
June 16th.
This man.
But and that was essentially the gold standard, right? Because we had something that we backed it by,
and that kept you on budget.
Yeah.
So in other words, I can't go out here and say, "Oh, I'm going to print up $100 million," when I know I can't back that $100 million.
Yikes! But that can't happen.
Huh?
That can't happen. That can't happen. And I'll tell you a fundamental reason why that cannot happen. Because Western civilization would fall. The richest continent in the world is Africa. It could back every single penny it printed and more because of how rich it is.
Wait a minute. Hold on a second. Wait a minute. Nigeria controls its greatest resource, oil.
Yep.
But the rest of them African countries, they don't control their natural resources. A European country does.
That's my point.
Oh.
Go ahead, Deuce. Go ahead.
Let me take it back to this. So we're talking about the gold standard, right?
Sure.
There's only so much gold that a country would have at a given time. America would never own all the gold in the world, right?
Correct.
Because of that would be huh?
Said India would be about some bad boys.
Yeah, right. But going to Richard's example, the dollar would have to be tied to gold, right? We would cap out how much gold we have. Therefore, it would limit our ability to do things, to respond to disasters, to fund wars. America loves wars, or to do anything else like that to stimulate the economy. It limits the monetary policy, and it limits what that country could do. Now, I will say, to your point, some of those things America has done has put us in debt because we don't have a hard cap on what we can spend. That's why they try to have that. That's why they try to have the debt ceiling, but that keeps getting punted down the road further and further and further.
Wait a minute, hold on. You just took your own argument and put it back on itself. The gold will limit you on what you can do. That's right.
Yeah.
Because as long as your money is flat, where only your perception, then you can keep your debt ceiling going as high as you want. It doesn't matter. As long as there is a perception that the money the government prints, you and I, all three of us will take that money and we can run down the street and the person down the street will take that money and do an exchange and they can buy stuff across the ocean. As long as China accepts US dollars, because they believe that the money has value. You could print as much as you want. The debt ceiling doesn't mean anything. This is where President Trump is actually right. The debt ceiling doesn't mean anything.
Hold on, wait, pause. Now, hold on now. Now you done threw up the whole red flag. Now here's the thing. If we only have so much gold, if we have 100 bars of gold, Rich, and the population keeps growing, at some point people won't have access to money because the gold would not grow at the same rate that the population grows. So what happens next?
Here's what happens. Hold on a second. Here's what happens. If your money is backed by gold, then you won't be able to overprice something because you won't be able to sell it for more than what it's really worth because
so we can't create more gold. So we can't create more money. That way, the population keeps growing. So what happens?
Hold on. Time out. Because just hearing what you just said, Rich, and generally speaking, I do get what you're saying, but what divisions do you get down to continue to separate the value of that gold, just like a Bitcoin, right? If you have the reason why Bitcoin can be sold is because you can parcel it off. But if we're static on a bar of gold being worth so much, well, then now we have to get down into micro divisions of the value of that gold. We're dealing with values of less than pennies.
Well, hold on. If you listen to this, if the perception of gold is right now the gold, I don't just to make a number, it's 1 bar of gold is worth $1,
easy math,
whatever. Yeah. So as the years go by, the value of the gold goes up, but it can only go up so much. So it still keeps you regulated, because right now your money, the only thing that the money is backed by is your perception. And the last time I checked, the perception of people who look like us ain't very high. In fact, hold on, wait a minute, because the perception of who we are is so low. That's why our faces ain't on the U.S. dollar.
And I'm not disagreeing with that point. Okay. But what I'm saying is there's only so far down you can manage that actual cost of the metal, right? Because if you have a gold bar, even if it appreciates over a span of 10 years to a $200, well, you can't value it to the right. But so far,
that's right.
But getting back to the variable that Deuce was talking about, population outgrows the actual economy by and large. So the value won't keep up with the population.
No,
we can't manage.
No,
unless we become like China.
No, I'd have to disagree, because right now you print up as much money as you want to because it's not backed by anything. But if you had it backed by gold, you can only print up so much. So that gold is really like a governor on a car. It will only let you go so fast until it stops you.
Right.
So right now, without gold or diamonds or any type of tangible that you can perceive to be worth so much, that money right now is flat. There is no limit on how much the money is worth because it's all perception.
Yeah,
we agree. I agree.
I agree with you on that.
But you're missing the point.
Yeah, because the penny is the lowest denomination of currency that we have, right? The lowest denomination of currency that we have. We don't have anything worth half a penny or a tenth of a penny or a thousandth of a penny. But when dealing with gold and trying to manage it in that fashion, especially with the rate of inflation or the rate of population versus the rate of appreciation for the metal that you're talking about, we can't manage that. We can't push a denomination low enough to keep the value of that gold, since we can't produce anymore.
And because you can't produce anymore, now you can't go above and beyond. And now you can't have a person like Elon Musk worth 400 billion. You can't have that anymore because it limits you. So God puts all these amazing resources that are endless. Because remember, I told you economics is BS. God gives us enough of what we need in an endless supply.
Right.
So he gives us water in an endless supply. But he didn't give us gold in an endless supply because he limited us.
Well, here's my thing to that, right? So you were saying with the gold, it's like a governor, right? It would slow down. It would slow the economy down. You can't
it keeps you on
outpace the value of gold, right? there's no such restriction on reproduction. People out here popping babies left and right like they rabbits, right? So tying into what James was saying, once the population outgrows the value of that gold, how are those new people coming in and get paid?
You know what? You know what's funny?
That's a great way to sum that up.
Yeah.
Wait, say it again. Say it again, Deuce.
The population outgrow the value of gold. So say you have 1 gold bar per person at this rate. 5 years later, 5 people per gold bar. Another couple of years, 100 people per gold bar. At some point, people will be born. There won't be any money to give them.
Hold on. Wait a minute. First of all, you should work for the Fed because I swear you sound like you part of the elite. Boy, you got this game.
I wish I had the money.
Put me on.
If I see you standing behind one of them Fed presidents, I say, there his ass is. There's that man. He was sent to destroy me. Listen. Right. So when you have gold backing the money, and then you say, we don't have enough gold. Now you got to go to some diamonds. You have to go to something tangible to keep backing that money in addition to the gold. Now,
so we're adding.
So now you're putting it on
but you're still backing it by something material. Because when the government issues its money, it says, we'll be able to pay this money off. So now, hold on, check this out, and I'll be quick.
Please, I'm cooking something right now. Let's go.
Right now, the government says, whatever money we have, we can back it up. Back it up with what? Because you don't have no material wealth to back it up with. They back it up with printing more money. It's basically worthless because of.
I love the moments when I get Rich to trip up on himself. Thank you. Okay, so let me repeat what you said. Once gold is exhausted, we can add diamonds, correct?
No, I didn't say exhausted. We can add to the gold with diamonds or another material wealth.
Sure.
So
okay, not exhausted, but once we run out, the number becomes too restricted. We can add diamonds.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So
because
essentially,
remember, you've already limited my ability to search for more gold because you said this is all the gold we have. We don't have no more gold, and then tomorrow somebody from Europe or America will be digging in Botswana and find we found $100 billion of gold.
Yeah, you're going
deep down in the earth.
Or we can add diamonds or some other rare stone, right?
Silver.
Okay.
Or the coal.
So how is that different than kicking the debt limit down the road or increasing it?
Wait a minute. Because
the control mechanism was gold at first. Once the gold supply is exhausted, you're saying add more to that supply, right?
No,
diamonds,
you're adding something tangible because what you're doing now is you're printing money that's not backed by anything, and then you say, "Well, don't worry about that. We'll print some more money." So you're Listen to this. Right. You start with nothing. You print nothing up 100 billion times. And then I come to you and say, hey, we need more. Well, it started with nothing, so I'll just print up some more nothing to back up the original nothing because it was zero to begin with, and it's still zero now. But in my mind, for righteousness' sake, I start with $100,000, and I back it by gold. So it was backed by something. And then once you say we've exceeded the gold, now we got to find some other tangible. But the way you're talking, you started with zero, and then you created another zero to back the original zero. So you're still zero.
Rich, all I'm saying is, man, the way you put emphasis on zero. What I'm saying is you're applying the same process to both methods. You're applying the fiat process to the gold. Let me tell you why. Because once the gold reserves are exhausted, you're saying add diamonds. Once that's exhausted, you're saying add something else. That I'm pretty sure there's gonna be a committee of people that decides what that next tangible item is. Until we exhaust that, then we go search for another like substance. It's the same thing as fiat.
No, it's not, because it's tangible. Listen to this. There's a reason why Elon Musk is worth 300 to 400 billion.
And
there's no justification for that. There's no reason for that. But because your money is flat, it's not backed by anything. He's really worth. Listen to this, because you're gonna remember this one. I go out here and tell you, hey, I got this car. The blue book says that car is worth $1,200. The car's not worth $1,200. That car is worth whatever I can hustle Deuce to give me for that car. Okay?
No,
So whatever you can hustle somebody, that's what it's worth. And right now, this fiat money, they've got you hustled and manipulated because they say, hey, it's a zero. It's backed by zero because the money came from nothing. It's backed by zero.
So again,
that zero, if it was to measure out the zero, PERCEPTION. That's how you spell zero. Because one lady may look like a zero to me, but to you, Deuce, she's $100. Perception.
But again, especially if we go back to precious metals, minerals, or anything of that nature, why it won't be back to that standard? Because again, the richest continent in the world is Africa, based on those standards.
Africa does not control its natural resources.
No. I get that. I'm not arguing against that. Right? Okay. Africa does not control its own resources. However, Africa is having a wave of taking back their own resources. Right?
Wait a minute. Hold on.
Yeah.
If we look at this from a very righteous perspective, the first people on earth came from the east part of Africa. All mankind comes from the east part of Africa, and that's why all three of us carry the master gene, because we were part of the first class of people. That's on the religious aspect. On humanity, all humanity comes from the African, but the real word is Ekabalam. All right. Now we go into the mineral wealth. All your natural mineral wealth comes from the first continent that God created, if you believe in God. So it all goes back to we were first anyway on the biblical side, and then the biblical side is backed up by the mineral wealth. And that's why certain countries on a certain continent said, we don't have enough right here. We got to sail down to somewhere else and grab their stuff. We'll grab their mineral wealth. Well, first we'll grab their intellect. That's the first thing. Outside of their religions. Because they got more than just one religion in East Africa.
I got you on that, but going back to the conversation that got us here.
Okay. You're
establishing a sliding scale for what's tangible and what's not.
No, I'm
to
not.
be included into your mechanism, your control mechanism. And let me give an example. I'm going back to Bitcoin. I want to use Bitcoin because it fits your example perfectly, because Bitcoin in the crypto space, it has a cap. There can only be so many Bitcoin made. Once you get to that target, no more Bitcoin can be made.
It just gets fractured.
It's fractured, right? So just sub that for gold. There's only so many gold bars that we can get to. All right. So the past 7 days average price of Bitcoin, the 11th, 83,500. The day before, 8,400, 82,700, 83,200, 83,800, 82,900, 83,300. All right. Going to our fiat system, that's a huge variance. We went from, in the past 7 days, 83,500 at a high to it's like 82,000. No, I'm sorry, no. It was 84,000 even at a high, all the way down to 82,700 in just a 7-day range.
Yeah.
The dollar high was 104.30. The low was 104. What the Fed tries to do is to regulate the value of that dollar to keep it even, right? Because you can look at other currencies. Hold on, wait. You can look at other currencies throughout the world. They fluctuate just like that Bitcoin, man. Nobody wants to be in a roller coaster ride, baby. Nobody wants to be on a ship with choppy waters. We don't want that, man. We want calm seas, so that the dollar has become the international trading mechanism for the world, man. Because steady seas, man. You want to ride on a boat with calm waters, or you want to ride through a tropical storm, Rich? Tell me which one you want.
You know what, Deuce? You've been sent by the Fed to manipulate me.
He said he was sent by the Fed.
Let me tell you. Check this out. When you said the Bitcoin has a cap on it, I said, yeah, I bet it does. And that's why it'll never be the U.S. currency, because with this fiat dollar, there is no cap. And then when you say, hey, the world looks at our U.S. dollar as being the most favorite currency to do things in. You got that right, because when you got the most nuclear bombs, you call the shots. And that's why they say, as long as we have the strongest military and the most nuclear bombs, we'll always keep our place in the world. That's why, as long as we can keep black and white arguing over race, and we can still manipulate the white middle class and the white working poor to believe that they're better than everyone else, we can also cut Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security. See how that game goes? See, you walked right into that trap. Praise God. Praise God.
That was a
Praise the Lord,
not a
saints.
that was not a trap.
Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord, saints. James knows what I'm saying when I say that. Praise the Lord, saints.
That's messed up, man. Because if I don't say praise the Lord, people gonna think I'm anti-Christ because it ties to your point. That's slick, Rich. Flash, you see what he did, man. He said a lot of stuff to support his point to praise the Lord at the end. And if I refuse to say it, now I'm against it. I'm against the Lord, which is really tying into his points. True, Mr. Richard.
Hold on. No, here's the great thing about that. With the Federal Reserve, if they were giving the money to the U.S. government, telling them, hey, go print this money up, and they weren't charging back interest, you would have me. You would really have me on the ropes. Because what they're doing, when they tell, they're telling the U.S. government, you want $100 billion, go print it up, we authorize it. And the money is being printed from thin air, and then they tell you on this zero, you're going to pay me back money on this zero with interest. This is how stupid the American people are. Listen, if the Jews, if those who are devout Jews and those who are devout Muslims are saying that borrowing money and paying it back with interest is an abomination, it's sinful, it's not righteous. If these two guys who can't get along, the best ones in these two groups, and they're both agreeing that the Sabbath falls on Friday night through Saturday, they don't eat pork, they don't cut their beards, and they're telling you you don't borrow money as a borrower and pay it back with interest. If they're telling you this, what more do you need to know about the end of the world and how this banking system is so evil?
Last I checked, there's not a Islam, Muslim, or Jewish country that serves as an international fund of the world. I'm just saying. Okay. Last I checked.
That's a valid point. But
wait a minute.
Speaking of,
yeah, here comes the pivot.
Rich, go ahead.
Nah, Rich been going. Rich been going.
I'm gonna cut the music. We go ahead.
What I'm simply saying is, if you let someone tell you how much money you can print up, and then you pay that person back that money with interest, and the money came from nothing, and then you can't figure out why you can't get ahead, you're the fool. You're the fool. Because trust me, if I'm the Fed, I don't care what war is going on. If I'm the international banker, I can care less what country wins the war, because I'm giving money to both sides. I will never lose.
Yeah.
I'm funding both sides of the war. So, and even when the person wins the war, pay me back my money. To the country that loses the war, oh, you still owe me that money.
Pay me back my money.
So I'm getting paid twice with interest. If that's not unrighteous, then
Much Boricua in the house.
I don't know what unrighteous is. Now, you can check the history books, and it'll tell you that certain people of the world have financed both sides of the war.
Oh, absolutely.
And done quite well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely.
And so,
they have.
So it's funny how President Trump lies on one hand and says he's against the globalists, but he's a businessman. You can't be against the globalists and be a businessman, because you're always taking loans and paying loans back with interest. So President Trump, you're actually lying. But I was just sitting back waiting to catch you. And the first lie I caught you in was your tariff. You tell me in that budget that you sent, you want to pass in the House, you want the free market. Let the free market be our religion. Let that control us and not government intervention. But now you say the free market's not good enough. We need tariffs. So which one is it? But this is the lie of the Republican Party, and they've got caught in it, because a tariff is a tax. And I thought the Republicans were against taxes. I thought they were trying to take away taxes off tips, off overtime. If they could, they would take taxes off the income. But now it imposes a tariff.
Who would take taxes off the income?
If Donald Trump,
okay. All right, hold on, time out. We got to transition. Let me introduce where we're going. Let me introduce where we're going, because now we're talking about the U.S. and the EU divorce, right? Separation of and tariffs. We've slid over into tariffs globally, not just with Canada and Mexico, right? But also with the EU. And for those of you all who are not familiar with the EU, it's an organization made up of 27 different foreign countries, right? So we're implementing, or we've implemented in Europe. Thank you for saying that. Absolutely. 27 different countries in Europe that are responding in kind with tariffs, which are taxes. So, all right, gentlemen, go ahead, continue, please.
So, this is the first time I can remember. I don't know about reading about it. I'm trying to think in history where the fracture between us and the EU has been so wide. I can't remember another time since the time we fought for our freedom from the Ukraine. Right outside of that, I don't think there was a time. I could be missing the era. I don't recall it. Because we've always been in cahoots with the EU. We've been like cousins since we got free from the UK.
Yeah, I'm going back in my Rolodex of history, and I'm trying to find a place. I'm trying to find a pinpointed. Okay, well, yeah, there was 2018. In 2018, there were tariffs levied against the EU at that point. There were that was the first round of tariffs that was pushed out to the EU. I can't remember exactly what the response was at that time, but it wasn't the same as what's happening now.
Yeah, I wonder who was the president in 2018.
It might be the same person that created this whole deal with Canada and Mexico.
It was the same person that created the deal, right?
Okay, I thought so.
So I got to do some more research to see what he has against the EU. But all we know is what he's saying publicly, right? He wants a better playing field for American companies across the places they can go. EU, Canada, Mexico. We know, right?
Yeah.
One thing I will say, there is a shimmer of truth in this statement. We are the backbone. We are the legs, the table, the dining set, the placemat for NATO. Okay? Without us, there is no NATO.
But we also created it.
We did create it. But I would venture to say that Europe is over-reliant on American military and financial might to protect them from our common foes. Well, Russia, I don't know if I can say they're a foe anymore. And China, right? So I would say they are over-reliant on that. That should be rebalanced. But all this other stuff begs more research. I really would like to know what he's truly trying to get at with these tariffs on those countries.
But let me throw this out here. If a person has shown me that they're not good with running organizations, not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times, not 5 times, but
definitely
6
5
times.
Dang.
6. Yeah. If they've shown me that they are willing to bankrupt a business because they're not good at business, I have to believe them. And if they turn around and tell me that they want to run the country like a business, it's up to me at that point to simply state, you're not good with business. You've already shown me. You don't hire the best people in the world, clearly. And if you do, well, then I have to take the best people that you hired at their word. I have to take generals that say, we don't bow down to dictators and directly point at you. I have to take the word of former staff members who say you should never be in that seat again. I have to take the word, right, of not just the word, but I have to watch the actions of everybody who's been arrested that's worked under you previously. And I have to take into consideration all these different variables and then put them in the scales of judgment to say, wait a minute, you said we're going to do this. We're going to get groceries down day one, but the prices have begun to skyrocket. You
No,
said
hold on, man. You got to give him credit where it's due. Now he has brought prices down.
which prices?
The stock market.
Ooh, there you go. That was a great joke. But yeah, that was great. But I'm just saying, just the tariffs that are being levied against the EU are absolutely ass. Let me put the disclaimer up real quick. Hold up. I just thought about that. I need to put up the disclaimer. Right. Elon Musk, let me say it this way, with the advising element of Elon Musk and his inability to have empathy, which causes evil, and the aforementioned tariffs, not just to the north and the south of us, but also to the east and the west of us at this point. We have nothing to gain. We don't produce enough right now to sustain ourselves, and to try and force that movement is what's going to cripple and crumble the economy. Again, Nebraska is supposed to go bankrupt in about 6 months. And the farmers at this point are asking, does nobody care about Nebraska? Now, honestly, unfortunately for them, I care not Nebraska. I don't care about you and your plight, because that's what you put yourself in. This is what you, like they continue to state, this is what we voted for. Perfect. Well, then sit in that. And by the way, let me say this also. Black people, do not take y'all asses out to nobody's goddamn streets to protest at any time during this administration. Do not do it. You keep your ass at home. You stay at home. You do not become the scapegoat. Stay at home. I don't care how many national monuments they tear down, that people that look like us. I don't care if they try to destroy Martin Luther King Jr. We know they're going to do it. I don't care what they do. We do not get in anybody's streets right now. We do not. We don't put us in that situation.
So what I hear both of you saying is that you love America, and sometimes America does things that you don't agree with, but you love America and you're willing to die for America, and you support the commander-in-chief when it comes to military operations. That's what I'm hearing. Now, that's what I'm hearing.
That's exactly
that part is a little light on me.
You're gonna be in Poland.
And what somebody said, I'm willing to make my enemies die for the cause of America.
But you know what?
Yeah.
This is what I would say about your reverence for the commander-in-chief and supporting his military decisions. Here's what I would say. Number one, you're obligated.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But I think President Trump is tricky. When they said you can't send troops to the border, he said, that's a lie. I'll declare it a national emergency and I'll stop this illegal immigration. And he has.
Ish.
Okay. So he did that part right. Eliminating all the jobs in the federal government. As the president of Local 1000, I'm against any American losing their job. Anybody that's here, born here, a U.S. citizen, I'm against job loss, period. Because when you eliminate that person's job, you let them go, did you ensure that you create another job somewhere else for them to be hired? I am pro-labor. I am not a hypocrite. I don't want no one in my union while under a signed contract losing their job because they are represented by a union. So all those federal workers who are represented by unions, they shouldn't be losing their jobs.
But I have a question to that point. Then would you agree with the idea behind the tariffs? That they're going to eventually, or they're supposed to create American jobs, because that's what's being posted. That's what's being said, that the tariffs are done to stimulate American growth and American jobs.
So when you as a citizen of America exercising your freedom of speech regarding a person's business acumen, and you stated that President Trump, not the commander-in-chief, not that part of him. But as the president, you said he had questionable business acumen. I think he may have claimed bankruptcy at least 6 times.
That was as a private citizen. That was as a citizen.
Right, as a private citizen.
Not this.
So you said if he had bankruptcy 6 times, then how can he run a country like he's run his prior businesses? So that raises a good point. Now, a lot of people on the left bring that up all the time. My problem with the tariffs is if you tell me you're a true Republican, and I'm not saying President Trump's a true Republican, but the people who support you, they're hardcore true Republicans. They believe in a free market. They don't like government interference. But yet you're interfering with the free market in America to, quote, make America great again. Will it work? I'm not sure. I don't know. But here's what I do know. You may have bullied Mexico. You're not bullying Canada. And then when you try to bully Canada, they push back and say, we'll do 25% on electricity. And then you backed off. Now, you tried China. And China said, if you want to have a tariff war or any other kind of war, let us know. China called you a bluff. As far as the EU is concerned, I don't know, because I'm glad that the EU is somewhat falling apart. Because if you put Europe in all one financial currency and then you do Africa and Asia the same way, then it's just a matter of time till you have one world currency. And when you have one world currency and somebody has the power to take over one world united government, a global government, I don't trust that. So I believe in having our borders. I don't believe in a global society. I believe that every country should be able to control their own destiny.
Sure.
So
but I don't think that the EU having its own currency, or even the continent of Africa having its own currency, would lead to a central government.
I do.
Right. Well, the reason why I say that is because as America, we've got 50 states, but all of our states are still sovereign.
No.
Right.
No.
Yes, they are. That's why. But that's why every governor of every state is a commander in chief to its National Guard.
But every governor, every state, per the Constitution, the Constitution says the states will have this much power, but the federal government will have the supreme power. And so anytime there's a problem at the state level, and that case goes into the federal courts and it gets to the United States Supreme Court, they make the ultimate decision, because the South wanted to use state powers to keep, quote, Africans enslaved. And they wanted to keep their own state rights on desegregation. And the federal government said, oh, you can't do that.
Right. But
so
that's not.
You do have one currency on American soil that comes from the U.S. government.
Right. But I'm saying just because there's a predominant currency doesn't mean that you have to give up all sovereignty, if that makes sense.
We only have one currency.
Right.
So before the EU, oh gosh, the Brits had the pound. They still do. Mm-hmm. Germany had Deutschmark. So every country in Europe had their own currency. The EU was to bring more unity, almost so like it's like America. We have 50 states, but the dollar represents all 50 states. Okay? So the EU was trying to mimic the dollar by saying we're going to have one currency to help all the countries in Europe become more unified. But some countries didn't want that because they was giving up their sovereignty by adopting the EU, not keeping their own currency.
Okay.
I think it's a bit of a stretch to say they were giving up their sovereignty by adopting it. I think that's where the disconnect is, because they weren't giving up their sovereignty. That each country still represents themselves wholeheartedly.
Yeah, just like
UK just backed out of the whole EU deal. They came out of the block.
Yeah, but that's because we still have different states' laws, right?
But you're controlled by one currency.
I'm not disagreeing with that. We're controlled by the same currency, but every state still has different laws. Even if you look at gun laws, states are different when it comes to gun laws. Although
Yeah,
the
but
federal
that doesn't
government,
matter. That
well,
doesn't
well,
matter.
well, then if one currency is the definitive action that removes sovereignty, that would have to matter.
No, because when you go to the U.S. stock market, you don't care what state you're in. You're going by the U.S. dollar. You're not going by no other world currency. In fact, our currency is so dominant.
That waddle thing.
What happened?
Can I get that waddle thing? Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Sorry about that. Had to take pause for the calls.
So, as y'all stated, our currency is so dominating that even the Chinese, I guess it's the yin or whatever their currency is, even if that was to become the world's #1 currency, the US dollar is so dominating, it will still be the most favored currency. So in other words, if Deuce was to go out here and rob a liquor store in Brazil, and then they say, okay, you got to leave. And so he runs away from Brazil with his stolen money. And he goes to Switzerland. And they say, well, hey, you want to keep this Brazilian money that you stole? It's traceable. He says, no. Let me go on and convert it to the US dollar. Because I know that US dollar will go anywhere, anytime, any place. I don't care what they say about America, that US dollar is the most revered. Why? Because we have the most nuclear weapons.
Sure. And go ahead, Deuce. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, but going back to the sovereignty point, I think using the U.S. is a wrong example. They got to use the EU because each country still is sovereign within itself.
Yeah.
Where America, we do fall under one federal government, one nation, one central head, the president. Where the EU is those countries are only combined by a monetary policy.
Yeah.
Right. Their countries still operate within themselves, self-governing countries. So going back to your point, you're scared, not scared. You don't like the EU because if the EU gets together, Africa gets together, one currency, then the whole world will have the same currency. I don't think that would happen because there's too many people with their own self-serving interests that would keep that from happening.
Yeah.
That argument will win in popular opinion. But to those who look deeper, some people say we've already given up our national sovereignty when we became part of the United Nations in New York, because they kind of look at that as being the world government in the making. Or, the world government's already there. It's called the United Nations. Some people say that. But in popular opinion, Juice, you would win the argument.
I feel like the UN is just a fancy country club.
Yeah.
I do see ideals could be shared with world leaders in one spot. Sure. They vote on something, but those ideals are shared and they can be spread across the world. I do understand your point on that. The UN just doesn't have any bite, but it's a great place for sharing ideals, whether we like it or not. So I can concede to your point on that.
I can't win this argument. I already know this. I know by popular opinion. No, I'll walk away from this one.
So is there about to become a bigger rift or split between the US and the EU?
No.
Even with these tariffs that have been pushed out against both sides.
This is why I said President Trump is tricky. Sometimes he's serious. About that border, he was serious. Was it because he was racist, a little prejudiced? I don't know. When it comes to the tariffs, whoever pays him off, that's who he's going to roll with. Listen to how I say this, though. Whoever pays him off. Now, if it benefits America, great. But he's not worried about that. He's worried about himself and his family and his legacy. So China's already said, if you want to mess with us, you can't bully us. So you want to put some tariffs on us, we'll put some tariffs on you. If you want any other kind of war, here we are. That's dangerous talk. But remember, China has nuclear weapons, and so does North Korea, and so does Russia. So they say, hey, America, even if we put our nuclear weapons together, you still have more than us, so what? So if you're willing to die, let's go. He's calling Trump's bluff.
So your point is,
we don't know.
It's not that we don't know. but the power lies. Might makes right. Is what you're saying. Might
We
makes
don't know
right.
how serious he is. He jumped on Mexico. She said, "Okay, I'll give in." Canada said, "We ain't giving in. You want to
What did
act
she
more
give
funny?"
into though?
Huh?
What did she give into?
Putting troops on the border was
That's
one
That's
thing that we
something
know
that,
about.
but that's something that she was already doing.
no, no,
She was
that's not true.
already going to do. Yeah.
No, she said she was going to, but he kind of forced her hand.
She,
But
but
the tariff. I'm sorry.
it's something that it's something that literally she had already said they had already committed to. That's why, like, there were several articles that were saying that Canada and Mexico didn't do anything that they said that they're not doing anything more than they had already signed on to do once before.
Yeah, but here's the thing. From what I can remember, whatever agreement he got with Mexico, I don't think they're getting any tariffs. When he tried to put tariffs on Canada, Canada said, "Yeah, go ahead."
I think they still have tariffs. Yeah, Mexico, the
They still have
25%, the
Yeah.
25% has been issued on both countries.
Yeah.
Canada was about to catch another 25.
No. They put the hold on the tariffs of Canada because Canada came back and said, "We're going to put 25% on our electricity we send to those states of, oh God, Michigan and a few other states, I believe."
April 2nd.
That was a hold on the additional 25%. I
Yes.
think
I'm sorry.
the first
So you're saying there's
25
still
was on.
25% on both Mexico and Canada?
Yes.
I do believe, yeah, that went into effect.
April 2nd, the continuation of the tariffs are supposed to happen for Canada. And
Right.
Canada's all for it.
Wait a minute. The continuation, did they ever get the first 25%?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's already started. That part was already pushed. From unless I read something wrong, right? So Canada has already retaliated, right? Just like and so that's what I'm saying. There's a trifecta that's happening right now for tariffs. It's Canada, Mexico, and the EU. The EU was made prominent on the stage within the last week and some change because the EU is like, well, we directly retaliatory. If you're hitting us, we're gonna hit you. Yeah, and not just that, but we're actually willing to suffer the consequences. So by all means, let's do this. By all means, let's go. Because if you say it's gonna create more jobs in your country, it's gonna create more jobs for us too. So if you hit us with 25, we're gonna hit you with 25. We don't want it to be like this, but let's do it. Let's do it. And that's the mainstay that everybody's taking at this point. We can't win with increasing tariffs on everyone globally. We can't. We're too tied in global economics to win that fight. We don't have enough lumber, steel, aluminum. We import those. And if we're going to build our own manufacturing plants and companies, what is it going to take? Lumber, steel, and aluminum, right? Because those joints and the joists that tie steps or whatever stairs that you make coupling pieces with, yeah, we still live. Those are aluminum pieces as well, right? Steel coming from the EU and even from Canada, lumber, so on and so forth. We can't win this war on all of these. This is not a boots on ground war. This is an economic war that we need to assist sustaining us as being the global economic power. Otherwise, the dollar won't mean anything and the World Bank won't have that.
I disagree. And I'm not trying to take up for Trump. Let me make sure I clearly understand you. I'm just going to take Canada.
Yeah.
March 4th, 25% on Canadian goods, 10% on energy exports from Canada imported into the U.S. And then now you're saying on March 12th, today, America puts 25% on Canadian steel and aluminum products.
With the EU.
No, on Canadian steel and aluminum products.
But the EU also, he's put tariffs on the EU for that as well.
Okay. And I thought that got pushed off because Canada was going to put a tariff back on us, and then I thought it got delayed. So I'm looking
that should have been the additional 25% that Trump. So Trump was going to raise it up from, I hate how they talk. 25%. Is that 25? He's going to raise it to 50%.
Okay.
And then Canada was like, hold up, let me back down.
Right. So I'm on the Canadian, because when I say this stuff on these web links, you know, the internet puts up anything. I am at allegedly, the Canadian Department of Finance web link, if that's a valid website. So this is what they're saying out of their mouth. This is not an American website. This is a Canadian website. Okay. So I don't know, because I want to say, James, that you're right. That's what I want to say.
We can't win this tariff war the way we're entering it. And like I said before, go ahead.
No, we're going back to the divorce, man. EU's plans on countering with their own tariffs on our goods, right? Also, they had a group. I'm just going to find it again. Start with the W. It was some type of group that they had where it was with 3 nations originally.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
I do. I have an article up. It's some crazy long word, right?
Yeah. Dang it. Well, all right. So pretty much it was 3 nations that had each other's back with the treaty.
Yeah.
They want to expand that to exclude pretty much recreating NATO without America.
Yes.
Germany is already promising to share their nuclear technology with other European nations that do not have nukes.
Wait a minute.
France.
Germany doesn't have nuclear weapons, do they? No.
They want to share the nuclear technology.
Nuclear weapons countries. I'm looking at it right now. Oh, hold on. I got Russia. No, Germany doesn't have it.
I'm sorry. Correction. You're right, Rich.
Yeah.
Germany relied on the U.S. for nuclear protection, but now they're considering developing their own nuclear arsenal.
Who? Germany or
Germany? Before they relied on us. Now
Germany is one of 5 NATO members to host U.S. nuclear weapons on its territory as part of a nuclear sharing agreement. The German Air Force has assigned approximately 15 B-61 nuclear bombs, which are deployed at the, I can't say that word, air base.
Right. Okay. Because that's why we have bases over there, because the Air Force has nuclear weapons in Germany, because after World War II, when Germany lost, they weren't allowed to ever regroup their military again. See, that's the rest of that story. So that's why when it says here 9 countries possess nuclear weapons, of course, Russia, America, China.
Yeah.
No, I didn't know France. I didn't know about France. Of course, England. Of course, Israel.
India's in there?
Oh, yes. You ain't going to blow up India. Don't let them fool you.
Turkey should be in there.
No, absolutely not.
Turkey's not?
Pakistan.
No.
Pakistan.
The only reason why Pakistan is in there, because they used to be part of India and they hate each other. And so if India was getting their nuclear weapons, Pakistan said, well, we want ours too.
Sure.
And they got it. And North Korea, of course, has nuclear weapons. But if you look at who has the most, we have the most. But we tell every other country that wants to do their own. If African countries want to get their own nuclear weapons, we tell them, oh, hell no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yet we have the nuclear weapons.
But so that's the thing. So now Germany's reconsidering that deal. They want to own their own nukes because our nukes are there. That means Germany has to convince us to fire those nukes, which hopefully we never have to, but still.
I can't blame them. Well,
yeah,
that's hypocrisy. If I say, hey, I believe in my country, you come mess with us, then if the chips fall where they fall. But then you have your country and I have nuclear weapons, but I tell you, no, you can't have it. I'm the world's leader. Well, who the hell made you the world's leader? I did. My power, my money. I'm the leader. Well, since you self-exalted yourself with your fiat money, and you tell me I can't have my weapons, and I'm trying to defend myself from this other group of people, come help me out. Since you say we friends and everything. And you say, no, I ain't helping you out. The other country can do what it wants to do. And the other country has nuclear weapons. And then we tell the country who doesn't have the nuclear weapons, roll over, know your place.
Mm-hmm.
That's the hypocrisy.
Got you. I got you.
It is.
Because look, we support our country, but because we support our country doesn't mean that we think we're superior to another country.
Yeah.
That's hypocrisy. If someone was to invade our country, we'd have a fit.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So with these tariffs, again, I think you're going to win the argument. But I don't know how serious Trump is. Because if he's trying to run this country like his business, he's trying to get his cut.
And then dip.
Yes. Well, wait a minute.
That's all I'm saying.
Wait a minute. He's termed out. He has to leave. Because
Look,
if he tries to stay for another term, you'll get mad at him.
They're trying to get him a third term, but he ain't.
So he has to leave. You said he'll dip. He has to.
Yeah, he'll get his and he's gonna dip.
So
Deuce, what you looking up though?
I was all right. America became a superpower after World War II because the world was in shambles.
Yep.
We were able to fund the world out of debt, right? We were able to stand Europe back up, restructure Germany, restructure Japan, right? And our American might companies, all that helped out. We were on a modified gold standard system when we did. I know we already talked about that. We were on a modified gold standard, not a strict gold standard, because guess what? They thought, let's raise the price of gold and say it's worth, I think it said $35 so we can generate more money because we needed it to invest in the world, to capitalize. And that move helped us become superpower we are now. So
that's interesting.
And that led to a fiat system because it wanted more flexibility to capitalize opportunities, right? That's what I was looking up. But that grip that we have, Europe, I think they've been growing tired of it. But this divide that we have now, so it's not only on tariffs, an economic divide, it's a divide on foreign policy. Because as we mentioned in the last episode, we're voting with Russia, North Korea, and I'm not going to count Belarus. They're just a child of Russia. So Russia and North Korea, right? First time we ever voted alongside those party lines for those two countries. I'm going to say in a while. I have to research when the last time it happened. Europe is like the outsider now. We pulled back. We froze funding for the Ukraine. I think Congress
released a federal judge ordered it to be released.
Ordered it to be released, but has it been released?
No, not yet. It has not.
So
there's no date. There hasn't been a date put on it.
Europe's looking at that as the last frontier. If Ukraine falls, who's gonna stop Putin?
I take that back. It's not Ukraine funding that's been unfrozen.
Oh,
but it's USAID who's funding that. The Supreme Court pushed it back down to the lower court to establish a date.
Yeah.
However, Marco Rubio and his counterpart did state that they have unfrozen the funds to Ukraine because they think that they can reach a ceasefire.
Here's what I see. Yeah, it is a good idea to let Germany have their nukes again, because why would we be hypocrites? We're not hypocrites.
Because we're America.
So if we have nuclear weapons, why can't another country have nuclear weapons?
Because we don't like the way we don't like where they are. That's why.
But that's being self-righteous. We don't do that. Because when you act like that,
we're a Christian country, one nation under God, indivisible.
Wait a minute. When you act self-righteous, when you have something, but you tell somebody else, that's like me having a very nice house, and then you turn around and say, "Well, man, I want a house like Richard." And I say, "No, can't have that. That's not for you." That's BS. That's self-righteousness. That's something that type of attitude comes from Europe when they created America. We want freedom, but they brought over some other people to do all their work. See, that's that European. Some Europeans have that type of self-centered, egotistical, self-serving attitude, selfishness. and they believe in economics. There's a scarcity of resources to go around.
Well,
so we gotta.
Let me ask you this: every great company has one CEO, right? One person to answer to. Every football team, you have the answer to that head coach. There has to be a pinnacle point where decisions are made. The buck stops there, correct? For all successful companies and teams. Can we agree on that?
No.
Oh, okay. I listen.
You know why?
What company or team is successful that has two equally powered heads? I'm listening.
Wait a minute. If you say a corporation, the CEO should have the power, but oftentimes it's the chair of the board that has the power.
It's the board.
The board is a mechanism.
How that corporation is set up.
A board is a mechanism to try to keep the CEO in check, but
yes,
the CEO has more power than the board.
Not necessarily. It depends.
Who runs the company?
It depends on the setup of the company. Trust me, I'm in this position right now. I'm living this nightmare.
Who runs that CEO has more power than the board. The board has
traditional senses. In a traditional sense, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Apple, the Magnificent Seven. Those CEOs run that company.
Hold on a second.
Try to contain.
You said they run the company, but the board gets mad. That CEO will be out.
The board was mad at Uber CEO for eons. Couldn't get him out.
Who?
Board was pissed off at Zuckerberg when he was investing in virtual reality. Couldn't get him out. I know what you're saying, but let me rephrase. I always venture to say that the CEO has more power than the board. The board can be dangerous, but the CEO has more power.
Direct power, yeah.
Direct power.
Let me ask you a question. If you really believe that, how did the CEO get to the company? The board approved it.
Okay, but that doesn't change the statement that the CEO still has more power.
I'm telling you this firsthand. I'm going through. You better look at that bylaws and policy file. I'm gonna tell you that. That I know. All
right. So the CEO controls the operations of the company. CEO is responsible. If that company fails, all right, CEO is going to get sacked. It's not the board. All the weight lays with that CEO. If he or she has a responsibility, they got to have a little bit more power, right? Okay.
Yes.
Teams the same way. Hey, sure, the president, whoever can fire the head coach, but the responsibility of that team is on that head coach, star player. If the world is a stage, America is the CEO. America is the head coach. And as we just stated, no successful company or team can operate if there are two equals at the top. Things could get a little shaky, a little crazy.
Yeah,
that's how America's playing this world stage. And if you go back through our history, there's only been one superpower country at a time. Now there are times where the world stage was shared, but one was going down, one was coming up.
That's true.
Okay.
With that being said, gentlemen, I have to move us to final thoughts because I got to get with my babies. We gotta hang out for the rest of the night, and then I gotta refinance in the morning. So it's that time. I gotta get this down from where I am to lower so I can save some money because this economy is finna be rough. I was looking at chickens the other day. I'm finna buy me some chicks.
Man, listen, I'm about to house hack my apartment, bro. I'm gonna rent out space in my kitchen.
Oh,
I'm gonna rent out space in the sofa, the patio. I'm gonna put a canopy out there, man. It's gonna be a studio suite.
Wait a minute. Hold on. What I'm hearing you say is you're gonna keep doing what you do and serving the country. But if you ever decided to rent something out, you'll pay taxes on it. But right now, you have no intention of renting nothing out. That's what I'm hearing you say. That's what I hear you say.
I appreciate you. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly I don't know what y'all heard. That's what I said.
All right. With that being said, Rich, you up first for.
All right. So thank you for the pleasure. It's been a long day. Keep hope alive in this great country. We do have character flaws. We have made mistakes. But let's try to make each and every day our greatest day ever on earth. Thank you very much.
Oh, I can dig that. That's good. That's good. Deuce, what you got?
I didn't expect Rich to be so
I know, short
and to the point, man.
But he was after that at the beginning of the top of the episode. So
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he came in with the power. Man, you know what? You know what? I was gonna say, keep rocking with us. Thank you for tuning in. The few of you that do, we appreciate it. Share, like, subscribe. Let's keep this going, man. That's my final thought. Just love for the show.
All right. I appreciate that. My final thoughts is stay at home. Stay at home. Do not allow all this tomfoolery to get your moral sense up in a tizzy and get locked up and become the scapegoat of America yet again. Don't do it. Stay at home. Feathers are going to be ruffled. There's going to be great push to get us out in the streets. We can't afford to do it. Hell, Missouri is introducing legislation to send the local police departments back to the state. And if you don't understand the history about Missouri, Missouri was the last slave state of the Union. While being a part of the Union, they still had slaves. Don't go out in these streets to protest. If you're going to protest, do it online. Come on the Family Bloodline podcast and talk to us about it. But don't get out in these streets. Don't allow your righteous indignation to land you up in a cemetery or in somebody's prison. Don't become the scapegoat. This is not our fight at this point. This is not our fight, not the way they're trying to push us to fight. We have to become smarter and move strategically through these streets. We've got to navigate this with caution. Be very cautious with how we're doing this. Everything that we want to do does not have to be publicized. Every fight that we're fighting does not have to be mentioned. Become strategic. Understand the difference between tactical and strategic level fighting and engagement. Don't go out in these streets. If they want somebody to become martyrs, allow them to do it this time. We've already had dogs sicked on us. We've already had fire hoses turned on us. We've already had our buildings blown up. Don't become that again. We know what that history is. We know the outcome. This ain't our fight like that. If you want to fight, position your dollars in a different way. Organize your money. Organize yourselves. Organize your communities. Get a common vision, get a leader, and push forward like that. Don't get out in these streets. It's not finna be worth it. It's not finna be worth it. It's a scapegoat tactic, and if you can't read through it, you're gonna fall victim to it. So please, do not become a victim of what's about to be happening. We know how these rules are. We know this country. If nobody else does. So
I just want to say something.
That was my final thoughts.
That's in line with it. Mahmoud Khalil. Y'all heard about him?
No.
Long story short, he is a Syrian refugee that's here, permanent status, green card.
Yes.
Peaceful protests. Columbia University got arrested by ICE. They were going to deport a permanent resident of the U.S. They want to deport him because they didn't like what he was saying. They called it anti-Semitic.
Quick question. Was he, when he was doing his protest, the words that came out of his mouth, was those words all peaceful?
Good point. I'm going to go back and look at this. I've heard reports. Let me correct that. I've heard reports that it was a peaceful protest.
No.
But
if we're taking a certain standard, right? Regardless of what's being said, you can't blame people's actions on what he's being said. I mean, there was a whole group of people that went down to a building and rioted, right, with our representatives in it, and according to everybody else, he wasn't responsible for that. Call it an insurrection, call it angry protesters, whatever you want to call it, but he still had the freedom of speech to say whatever he wanted to say. That's a First Amendment right.
My question is, can we maybe talk about that next week? And then
Absolutely.
Can we make a promise that we'll pull the transcript?
Yes.
Of what Trump said, because he said it peacefully. He said to protest peacefully, but raise hell or something, but do it peacefully. And can we try to find the transcript of Mahmoud Khalil when he was doing his protest, we pull the transcript of his exact words.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. That. We ain't even got to meet next week. We know what we finna look at.
I'm about to add it to the Discord.
Yes, thank you for saying that. And for everybody that's going to be listening to this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all the other podcast platforms, we do have a Discord. I failed at it because I don't know how to use Discord intelligently. So Deuce is squaring away the Discord lines as we speak. So with that being said, hit us up on Discord because we'll be doing stuff on Discord as well. Also, we are looking into vendors for hats as well as other swag to be pushed out. So storefront coming soon. I'm working on that, and I'll get that up and going and pushed forward. Gentlemen, anything else?
That's all I got.
All right. Well, with that being said, like we say all the time, thank y'all for coming out and hanging with us. You could have been anywhere else in the world. Some of y'all were, but you came back anyway, and I appreciate that. So again, God bless and good night.